First Spin. Welcome to First Spin, a show where I learn how to use a Parallax propeller without having any prior programming experience. And rather than do this on my own, I have enlisted the help of two experts.
Yep.
Dose.
Yeah, expert.
We are back, Brian. Do not fear. We have returned to the earwaves of your whatever system it has so happens to be. Earwaves.
So for those of you who are following along, listener of the show, Brian down in Texas.
Yes, yes.
Was sort of very appreciative of the show and all that. And we missed an episode due to Roy being a little bit busy with his big move a couple months ago. And Brian kind of panicked. And, we calmed him down okay. But Addie and I went out of town for the last couple of weeks on a
Gave him a weight count.
Road trip, and we warned everybody at the end of the last show that we'd be gone.
It's true.
And we let Brian know that if he had any problems, he should try putting his head down between his knees and maybe breathe into a paper bag. So there's Addie and I driving through the desert, middle of nowhere.
I think it was Texas, actually.
Maybe it was Texas. It could have been North Texas. That was about the right time there, yeah. And this is probably like a week and a half, 2 weeks after that show had aired. And I barely, just shoestring internet connection. I managed to check the show email, feedback@tymkrs.com. Yep. All you guys can email us. We really like it when you do.
Absolutely. Please do.
And I got an email from Brian there, and
I hear Whisker over there on the side just start laughing. And it was, I
couldn't figure out what it was at first. I was
I think
what in the world is this ridiculous picture that I'm looking at? And then I realized who it was from, and I realized that he was literally sitting in an office chair with his head between his legs, breathing into a paper bag with two big dogs watching him.
Truly.
And the email basically said that the emergency procedure wasn't working and that we needed to come home and make another first spin. So, Brian, we're back.
So here we are.
Everything is okay. Code alarms are down. Do, however, let us know if we can put your picture up.
We totally will.
Classic. Just awesome. It was great.
I got to see it.
We laughed for
passed it along to Roy too, of course.
Very epic.
So we have been in, I don't even know, like 11 states.
We crossed 15 state lines.
Was it 15?
Covered 12 states, I think.
12 states. And
a couple new states, 4 of them actually.
Yeah, and Roy had a brush with fame, of course. Wil Wheaton, Mr. Wheaton. And apparently Mr. Wil Wheaton is as nerdy as
one would expect.
Exactly.
He's cool.
He's cool. He is actually cool. And can you believe he's like 40 years old?
Yep.
I thought he was like in his
He looks like 24.
30s, 20s, 30s.
Freaking annoying.
But guys always like get beards to look older. Do you ever notice that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But even with the big full-on beard and mustache, he still looks young.
Yeah. Yep. I think it's all the comics and such.
Yeah,
he's got to maintain that Wesley.
He's also like
Wesley look.
The way he dresses, he's like wearing a hoodie and Vans shoes and stuff. So
sure.
He's kind of trying to make it look young. But anyway,
sure.
He was cool. He was talking about all our games and just video games in general, and doing his website for the longest time, and all his writing and whatnot. It was cool.
Cool.
It was a fun conversation.
Very
there was
cool.
like 10 of us all having lunch with him, so I didn't get to like talk directly.
You didn't get to
with
interview him for First Spin.
No, sorry.
Okay. Yeah. You think he would like Propeller Parallax products?
I don't know. He didn't seem to be much into the hardware side of things, like at that level, like embedded hardware as much. But maybe he is, and I just don't know.
All right.
I know he likes to.
I watched the first episode of his YouTube show, that tabletop gaming thing. That was kind of cool.
I want to make a game with the Propeller.
Yeah?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Well, then do it.
How complex of a game can you make with the Propeller?
As complicated as you want.
Like, could I have made Final Fantasy, like, 3 on the Propeller?
Probably. I mean, as long
Really?
as long as you had some external,
like SD RAM. Yeah, like my 16 gig thing or whatever.
Because it wouldn't all fit in the memory, probably. Like just the RAM. You'd have to have some extra storage to pull in and out. But,
the prop chip is, obviously 32-bit and, 80 megahertz. So, that's faster and wider bit, than those systems were. I mean, they were 8-bit systems back then.
Huh. Yeah, and it has more RAM than most of those things had too.
What it doesn't have is the extra memory that that were on board the cartridges.
But you can get it with the SD RAM.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways to do it, but that's one way.
Because
or with an SD card. Just get an SD card plugged in and read from it.
Right. Because I looked at some of the tutorials from OBC and Gadget Gangster.
Yeah, OBC gets into that.
He does a lot of OBC does a lot of the games. Jeff Ledger.
He has an index link on his webpage somewhere with a bunch of games that people have been made for the Propeller that old arcade and 8-bit games, and some of them are really cool. You should check them out.
The only thing about that is that they have objects that I do not understand.
Right, but I mean, you could just play some of the games to see what the Propeller is capable of doing.
So that shows like some of the higher limits of what Propeller is capable?
Well, it just shows you some examples of, graphics and sound and gameplay that are capable, that it's able to do.
Okay.
I don't know if it's the maximum of what it could do, but it's definitely, a good example for you.
Sure. Yeah. And, so I'll have to take a look.
The Propeller is capable of quite a lot if you were willing to spend the time and effort to, code it in PASM and mixed in with spin and whatnot. There's some pretty cool examples. Like there's this demo called Turbulence, which is like I don't know if you're familiar with the demo scene, but it's like a coders that do these cool graphic demos. And one of the scenes is like using microcontrollers to do stuff. And this one, I think he's from Germany, but I'm not sure.
Wouldn't surprise
Some
me.
European country made a demo called Turbulence, and it's like this amazing graphical and musical demo, all running on a Propeller, and doing some things that people didn't think were possible with the video driver and stuff like that. So it's pretty neat. You should. There's a video of it on YouTube, so you don't have to actually get it working. You could just go watch the video of it playing, just to see what it is.
Yeah.
So you should go look that up too.
I think the interesting about this is that it veers into a completely, I feel, different direction from what my current experiences have been with the Propeller, because so far I've just been, it's been easy peasy. Like,
you haven't done much I/O in terms of like user I/O.
Whatever.
Yeah, you've been just interfacing with sensors and single buttons.
Right.
Doing simple stuff, but trying to make something a little more complicated with video and more complicated user input, it would be a good thing to try to move up to, because it'll make you think about doing multiple things at the same time, which the Propeller is really good at.
Can you imagine me as a game maker?
If
that would be so cool.
If the Commodore 64 that I started on was capable of doing literally more than one thing at a time, like the prop is, I probably would have gone a lot further into designing games.
Yeah.
Because I always ran into the difficulty of how do you do your sound and your graphics and your game engine itself all at the same time. I didn't have anyone to show me how to do it, nor did I work in assembler on it. Roy's the opposite. He figured that stuff out, and now he makes games for Valve. Well, working with them anyway.
So I would have to learn PASM. I can't do it all of it in spin.
Yeah, because or you'd have to use some objects that are written in PASM because we've talked about before, doing video
requires the PASM
with the video generator kind of requires PASM to do anything reasonable as far as high resolution or with lots of colors and all that.
So, are you guys interested in teaching me PASM?
Maybe, but it's very, very complicated.
There's a lot of drivers out there.
Yeah, so I should just
do the graphics for you, so you should rely on a fast one and just work from there.
All right.
In a way that you already understand, so that you can sort of get the game engine stuff working without having to learn an entire new language just to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. PASM is...
And it'd probably be a good thing to go over on the show, future show, like, here's a video driver object, and here's how you want to use it from Spin, and explain some of that stuff. So they'd probably be pretty good.
Okay. Actually, I have time this week, so maybe I'll take a look into the video driver, because I know that's a question that a lot of folks have been wanting us to go over, like the TV VGA business,
I've done the TV out stuff. It's fun to hack on.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we'll take a look at that.
In other news, I won this week.
What'd you win?
I won the big competition between all the coolest kids. Yeah.
That's right. The project of the week. Propeller project of the week.
Yeah.
Propeller
Parallax.
project of the week.
Synth is up on the front page of the Propeller forum.
Yeah. So I did this little synthesizer project. It's a wooden case with a keyboard in it, and it just has breadboards built into the top, so you can build whatever kind of synthesizer you want. But I, of course, used a little Propeller ASC board on it. I just stuck it right onto a breadboard and worked from there. So I was using spin code to sort of handle all of the intelligence behind scanning the keys in and playing the different notes through SIDCOG, and then controlling some other external things like a filter, and also was playing with the new Propeller signal generator.
Yep.
Object, which was cool.
Yep.
And that was the object of the week. We talked about it a little bit a few episodes back.
Yes, I do remember that.
So anyway, I win.
Win at life. Gold star for you. 100 points.
I'm not sure what I win, but I win.
You win cool points.
You win respect and admiration of your fans.
And
awesome.
We get to win a couple things. Ready, guys? So, local Rogers post in our fabulous first spin ideas is your prize. Ready? Number 6, we cannot go through yet because I have not experienced the video generator. So we will skip that for another first spin. But you get to win the Delta Sigma ADC. Woo! I don't even know what it is.
Have you used Delta Sigma, Roy?
Not exactly. I mean, I know kind of the basics, but like he says right there, you really need to use SMT parts on a propeller.
SMT.
Surface mount.
Okay.
So Sigma Delta is you use 2 I/O pins and you connect up a capacitor resistor circuit to it, but it needs to be really close to the pins.
Okay.
So that you don't get problems with the traces being long and causing weird timing and capacitance problems.
Okay.
So once you have the appropriate circuit, which I apologize, I don't know it off the top of my head or anything, I'd have to go look it up. You do some code on the 2 pins to allow you to sample a signal coming in from the other side of that circuit that's attached to the pins. And
now,
it's
Delta Sigma.
It's a successive sampling thing. So you like sample a bit at a time and take time to sample the bits, and then you count up how many. Like if you do 256 samples, that'll give you an 8-bit result. So you take 256 samples and it's on or off for each one, and you count up how many of them were on and how many of them were off, and that's your sample for your 8-bit sequence. And so if you do 1,024 samples, then you get 10 bits or 11 bits, whatever it is. I forget I'm brain farting here. But you know what I mean? You have to do multiples of powers of 2 samples.
And is this determined by code as to how many?
Yeah, you have to write some code to do those samples of the signal over time, and it has to do with you're like measuring the voltage if it's greater than or less than some amount, and that gives you a 1 or a 0, and then you do something to change the, subtract out some voltage or something, and then you measure it again. And I like I said, I'm not super familiar with the exact details of it. I just know the sort of surface details of it.
Okay.
So we could possibly do a whole nother show in the future.
That would probably be a good idea.
After me and Whisker have gone over it a little bit, and we could explain it in a little more careful detail, or possibly get a guest, some Parallax person might be willing to help us go over that.
So is delta sigma, is this a parallax object, or
it's a standard method that's used in all sorts of things? Delta is for difference, right?
Yeah.
And then what's the sigma stand for? Anybody know?
I'd have
to look it up. Have to pull up the wiki.
Sound like a dummy.
There. I always thought delta sigma was the one where if it goes up, it's a 1. If it goes down, it's a 0, and you just sort of get a stream of 1s and 0s, and that sort of traces out a waveform if you plot them out over time. But I don't know.
Oh.
No, it's not exactly. So yeah.
We might need to get local Roger on then.
Yeah, well, see, the idea is the bit stream is serial bits, but however many, like I said, you do 256 samples, and that gives you an 8-bit result. Because it has to. It's the basic idea is sort of the inversion of the DAC with resistor ladders, right? You're sampling it with the full voltage, and it's like a binary search essentially in electronics, right? And you're getting each bit is successively more precision of how much voltage there is above or below. Like if you did 1 bit, then you're just going to be it's 5 volts or it's 0 volts, and that's it, right? That's all you can measure. You don't have any more detail. But if you do 2 bits, then you have 4 possible values it can be. And so then you would have, it's 0 or it's 2.5 or it's 5 or, different values in between, depending on how many divisions, how many samples you do.
I see. So this is... all right, I hope everybody's brain is wrapping around it, because I get it.
To get higher precision, you need more time. And so in order to do really high bit rates, it takes longer time. So you tend to not get high frequencies with high bit rates. Like it's harder to get high frequency with high bit rate, high samples precision. If that makes sense.
That part didn't make sense, but the greater the number of bits, the greater number of bits you allocate to holding the memory of this signal, right, coming through the ADC, the greater amount of precision.
Well, it's about over time, like I said, though, right? So it's so many bits per time period.
Right. So like if you have 5 bits over 1 second, that's better than 1 bit over 1 second, because you get 5 bits worth of precision rather than 1 bit of precision.
Sounds like a terrible example.
Well,
right, but
that's
the way that it works. So like I said, if you want 8 bits of precision, like if you want an 8-bit value as your output, meaning you have 256 possible combinations,
voltages, right?
right? You have to do 256 cycles of the delta sigma algorithm, getting 256 bits worth of data.
Yeah.
And you're counting how many bits were on versus off in that 256 samples.
Right.
Right. So you're looping 256 times, taking samples and counting up how many of them are on, and then that's your 8-bit result. So if you want 9 bits, you now have to do 512 samples. So it takes longer.
Right.
To get one more bit of precision.
Right.
And it doubles the number of samples for every additional bit.
So then is that
imagine
that's like
a you're up at 16 bits, you've got to do 65,536 samples.
So you have a trade-off.
Right? It's a trade-off of time versus the precision of your reading of your result. And there are some applications where you're okay with it taking half a second to give you the measurement, but you want it to be really precise.
Right.
Whereas for like audio, you don't want it to take that long per sample, because you need hundreds, if not thousands, of samples per second.
Right.
To make a decent signal, to measure the signal accurately. So they typically use different mechanisms for doing ADCs for audio because they want more bits. But
I see.
Like I said, this is probably something we should go over a little more carefully in a future episode after we've learned a little bit more about it.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's
kind of caught me
off guard. Sorry.
Here.
So just and this is totally just off the top of your head, it's okay if the details aren't exact, but off the top of your head, when would you guys use delta sigma ADC?
Well, as sort of looking to the future, the mechanism that the Prop 2 uses to do ADC on its pins is delta sigma.
Oh,
but it handles it for you in hardware. So like you just tell the prop, hey, these pins here, I want you to do delta sigma ADC on them. And then it does it and gives you the result. And you just tell it how many bits of precision you want.
Fascinating.
And so that's one area. The quick start board that Parallax sells has right on the board, it has some pads for soldering on the surface mount components to make a delta sigma ADC signal, on a pair of the pins, so that you can actually do some ADC right on the quick start if you're willing to solder some SMT parts on. And I know people have used that, and you could use the typical usage for the simple kind is like, say you have a sensor that's not as smart as a lot of the sensors that Parallax sells, and it just outputs a voltage, right?
Right.
Some voltage between 0 and comparison voltage, which is usually how analog to digital works, is that you actually have a reference voltage. So it might be 5 volts or 3.3 or whatever, but that's what you're comparing against, is that voltage versus 0 volts. And so you would need something like a delta sigma ADC to read that sensor, because it's going to be some random voltage. It's kind of like taking RC time and doing a little more sophisticated thing to do it, is what delta sigma is.
Gotcha.
That's another way to think about it.
Gotcha.
And so instead of timing the charge, it's like doing comparisons and counting up bits, and I believe it's a little more accurate. But you could use that like a water level sensor or something might output a voltage, so you could just sample it, and it won't matter if it's a little bit slower, right? Because you're just sampling it like once every few seconds. I need a reading. What's the current reading? And you'll do like an 8 or 9 bit sample of the data to get a approximate reading of the water level or whatever. So that's a potential usage.
Got it. Cool. Okay.
And I'll study up on this, and in a future episode we can actually do sort of a tutorial on how it all works, because I kind of want to learn exactly how it works in more detail.
Yeah, I see it all over the place. I just never had an opportunity to mess with it yet, so that'll be good.
Well, and especially if every pin gets the opportunity on Prop 2?
Yeah,
right?
I will definitely be using the ADC functionality on the Prop 2, so I want to know how it works.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, the nice thing is that on the Prop 2, it's, Chip built it all into the hardware, so you don't really have to know how it works. You can just use it. Although, like you guys, it'd be nice to know how it works, so you know what you're getting into.
But I think
so next time I sit down with Chip, I don't sound stupid.
Yeah, but I think that knowing that there's a trade-off between amount of precision and amount of time, I think that's a good thing to know, because some people might be like, well, why isn't this going as fast as I'd like it? With the same amount of precision, because everybody wants everything at the same time. So cool.
Yeah, and it's good to know, if you're going to try to do 12 bits, you have to remember that you can't do as many samples per second. You can only do a few thousand instead of however many. It just depends.
Right.
The Prop 2 is going to be able to do quite a lot because it's all built into the hardware and it's doing it all very quickly. At the Prop 2's clock rate is super high. It's like 180, 200 megahertz. So it'll be able to do some really nice
200 megahertz.
Speed.
What are we gonna do with all that speed? I'm like, 80 megahertz is a lot already. Why do we need 200 megahertz? What am I gonna do?
They have processors that are 3 and 4 gigahertz.
Oh my. Well, yeah, I guess those are the ones that are in our computers, right?
Right.
Ah, man. All right.
There you go.
So Delta Sigma, we will look further into that, although we have now just gotten a small sampling of it.
Yeah, and if you guys have any reference material that you think would be handy in this, pass it along.
Yes.
We'd love to see it.
Yeah, email us.
Yes. And that was number 7 on Local Rogers list.
We've got 3 minutes left.
We have 3 minutes.
Number 8 will probably have to wait.
8, yeah. Well, okay, we'll skip
next
8.
Time.
And then quadrature encoders. I know you guys have code for that, so we'll skip that too.
That'll be a whole show by itself because it's kind of cool and handy.
Yeah, it takes a little bit to explain that one.
Right.
Yeah.
So you guys can look forward to those over the next couple of weeks. We'll cover those in more detail.
Right.
Well, I feel like I'm an RC researcher. See, I don't exactly know what I don't know what that means.
Basically, Roy 10. Took too long to explain that he didn't know.
That's okay.
I'm sorry.
No, it's okay.
I mean, hopefully there's a little bit of a little nugget of useful information and all that babble that I spewed out there.
At the end of the day, we're just starting to rev back up. So this is our hey guys.
What's up?
What's up?
Back.
How's it going?
it's our relaxed first spin.
And it's like the calm Brian down, we're here.
Oh, that would be a great title. Calm down, Brian. Let's do that. Let's write that for the title.
There you go.
But yeah, it's kind of funny. We recently had someone contact us to ask for information on how to interface Arduinos with XPs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and all of my examples are with the Propeller and XP, and I'm kind of tempted to just be like, well, just get a Propeller then.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, that's my initial response, because, we've already got code for you, buddy.
I know.
Just use the right microcontroller and we'll just hand it to you.
Yeah.
Right.
So, I mean, why not?
It's pretty funny who it was, too. I don't think we should say. But
no, not until...
It's the absolute most random, and you've heard of them, and they must do custom prototyping stuff, but, you never think that you're going to get an email from someone like that just out of the blue, and I guess we're the people who you contact about this sort of thing.
About XPs. Me.
Yeah.
I feel a little special.
Newbie Addie is the global go-to girl
for
XPs. Custom XP design.
Oh.
Yeah, but I mean, you've been doing
Parallax.
lots of posting on Tumblr and videos using your XP stuff, so you're kind of the local expert.
Oh man,
You're
isn't that
easy
just
to
scary?
find.
Isn't that just scary? I will say this though, most folks want to use Series 2 because I think they think it's like
2 means
bigger and better.
Yeah.
But Series 2 is such a pain in the butt. Series 1 much better.
They're both easy once you reconfigure them.
You can't reconfigure 2 though. 2 like ones are on their own.
You
like
can't.
They can either be
I thought you can download new firmware into 2s and make them into something really similar to 1s.
Oh, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I just thought 2s had to have that hierarchical structure. I don't know. I'd have to ask, but I stuck with 1s because
I'm a little frightened that Addie's considered an expert at something.
Isn't that funny?
I mean, other than nursing stuff, because that's obvious, but
a lot of people ask me for XP stuff, and I'm like, let me direct you to the tutorial.
Not my problem. Not my problem. Okay, guys. That's all the time we have for this week.
It is our welcome back and calm down Brian show.
We will be back next week.
Yes.
Tuesday evening.
Yes. Promise we do.
Yep. As long as Roy shows up.
And as long as we're alive.
Yep.
I'm planning to be here.
Excellent.
Okie dokie. You can find this show every week at firstspin.tv. There's an RSS feed on there if you want to automatically download it through your iTunes, your phone, or something like that. Or you can just press play on the page. It's real easy. We'll see you guys next week.
Till then.
Bye.
Bye.
See ya.